Welcome. Happy Friday to you. So here's a dangerous question. The question is, what you can ask it to yourself, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? What, or put another way, what am I hoping for? What outcome am I hoping for? What is the result of whatever I'm doing that I'm hoping for? And then you see, well, you want to feel better. And then what? Then what will you do? So if you really sincerely ask this question, the reason I say it's dangerous is because if you sincerely ask, really look for yourself right now. And remember, it's always an invitation to inquire directly for yourself. It's experiential. This is not about concepts or thinking. It's about looking directly for yourself. So you have to be courageous and look and see, what is it I'm hoping for? And this, you can ask this of anything, like, why am I here? Why am I attending this meeting? Or why is it, whatever you think you need in life, you think you need that, that house, that money, that relationship, that pain to be gone, that discomfort to be gone, that whatever you need, whatever you think you need, take a look and ask this question, what for? What are you hoping for? What will that give you? What are you going to get out of that? And you'll see, actually, you just want to feel better. That's fine. I say just want to feel better. It's a little condescending, isn't it? But you want to feel better. It's understandable. Nobody wants to feel bad. Maybe some people do. But you look and see, okay, I want to feel better. And then let's say I succeed in feeling better. And by the way, this is why oftentimes we don't succeed. Because actually we know, well, if I succeeded in feeling better, then I'd have nothing. Then what? Then what am I going to do? Because everything that we've done is all about trying to feel better. So of course we have to feel bad. Our whole life is built around trying to feel better. It's the only thing that gives us any sense of meaning. That's why you solve one problem, the next one pops up, because you just want to feel better. So you have to feel bad. You say it's a joke, but I don't think it's very funny. Do you? Well, you're in a good space then to think it's funny, because it's most of the time it's not funny at all. It's terrible. It's so painful. It's horrible. It's just absolutely tragic. It's so terrible. So you see, we want to feel better. So we're doing something to feel better. Well, then if we feel better, then what? Well, then what? Then what? What do we do? You see, it just takes everything out of it. It sucks the wind out of your sail. Then you're just stuck here. And you see, this is what we don't explore So we overlook it. We say, God, I got to be somewhere. I've got to get somewhere because this must be miserable because I feel so uncomfortable. I don't like it. It must be this. It must be this now. This must be the problem. I got to get to that. So we set ourselves about trying to feel better. But then we sabotage it. Or we succeed and then we feel awful. Or we say we're going to go to Mars. Pardon me when I roll my eyes. So it's a really dangerous question. It's a really, really dangerous question because, and you might not think I'm serious, but I am serious. It's a terribly dangerous question. This is the kind of question that throws people into awful depressions. So be careful because you have to know yourself. You have to know, are you able and willing to really have the fortitude for it? Well, now, of course, everybody does, but maybe more or less accessible. Maybe not in this lifetime for some people. It's there, but it's dormant. So you have to know, are you the sort of person, do you want to just kind of get through? If you want to just get through, well, I suggest disconnect now. Stop listening. Because it's a terribly dangerous question. It really, really is, sincerely. So you have to know yourself because we're going to the edge, and this edge is where everything is possible. Anything is possible, and that's very dangerous, and it's very wonderful at the same time. It's liberating, but it's a fine line or a non-existent line between falling over the edge and liberation, going crazy, becoming depressed, because there's still something that is unexamined. And so in order to, let's say, succeed, that's a loaded word, but we'll just use it. In order to succeed in this process of inquiry, we have to have the fortitude, we have to have the courage, the willingness to inquire all the way, to see everything, including, by the way, just to get this out of the way, the thing that's the worst. It has to be. Because if the thing that's the worst, the thing that to you is completely unacceptable, unbearable, not allowable, your worst enemy, if that cannot be inquired into, if that cannot be witnessed, received, allowed, if the truth of that cannot be discovered and received, then what chance of freedom is there? Then you're a slave. You're a slave to that. So it's very good news on the one hand, because it means that whatever, if you have, once you have this recognition, once you're willing, once you open the door to this possibility that true freedom is real, and it is possible, and it's possible for you, and it's possible now, and it's unconditional, then everything, without exception, is in service of that. Everything, every feeling, every experience, every interaction, every relationship, everything, every single thing, the indigestion, insomnia, pain, physical pain, emotional pain, winning, losing, the ups, the downs, all of it. The love, the loss, everything, 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 every moment. And you see that it's suddenly it's like a flip has been switched and there's just this rush of aliveness. Whereas before it was the same rush of aliveness, but it was, no, no, that's the old way. And maybe you can feel that. So just feel that in yourself. Feel where there's a no. Feel where there's that cringing, that armoring, that protecting, that flinching, that sense of, I can't. It's too much. It will destroy me. I'm too fragile. I'm too weak. It's too much. I'm poor me. Or you can see where it also can show up. That's one aspect of it that has so many faces, though. It can show up as a kind of like hopelessness, defeat, despair, flatness, depression. So all of these things that we say that's the worst. I can't stand that. That's the big problem. That right there, that's the gateway. So it's wonderful news because there's nothing that stands in the way except for, well, of course, something. And that's what we want to figure out. What is that? So look for yourself right now. Look to see, what is that? Why is it that you hold back? Why is it that you don't recognize this freedom, this happiness? The ecstasy. Why is that? Why is it that those things, freedom, happiness, ecstasy, on and on, we could list other synonyms. Why is it that those are, for us, they're so conditional? Why is that? That's what we want to know. So look, right now, you have to see, and if you say, oh, I don't know, it's difficult. How are you asking me these questions? Well, that's good. That's really good. I mean, hopefully you feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable I mean, unless you're just totally blissed out. But if you're not uncomfortable otherwise, then you got to wonder, what are you doing? Why are you making so much effort to prevent or protect yourself or numb yourself from the discomfort? Oh my goodness, it's just a little discomfort, isn't it? A little anger, a little frustration, a little discouragement, a little disappointment. You gotta open it up, let it happen, let it be here. Because if we're locking that down, if we're shutting that off, then how are we gonna ever experience or discover the unconditional freedom that we're promised is here? We're promised, aren't we? Haven't you heard that? You've heard it, I'm sure. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I'll affirm it for you. There is an unconditional freedom that is magnificent, beyond comprehension, that is present now, that is the truth of who you are. And if you're saying that, where is that? I don't feel that. Then good, excellent. Feel that then. Feel that frustration. Feel that discouragement. Feel that cynicism, that hardness. We have to be honest. So honesty is the is essential. Without honesty, we'll just keep perpetuating the lie. So the honesty is, here's the great thing about honesty, is it's so easy. It's just this. It's just this right now. It's just what's happening. There's no judgment about it. I mean, you think there's judgment about it. I know, but see that judgment's only what's happening. The judgment doesn't have it. The judgment doesn't attach to anything. The judgment doesn't mean anything. The judgment is just the truth. Just just see it as that. Not when I say the judgment is the truth, I don't mean what the statement of the judgment is the truth. I don't mean that. I mean just the fact that it's occurring. That's the truth. Like, oh yes, there's the judgment, and it's empty, meaningless. But notice how you flinch from it. Can you notice that? So this is, you see, it's actually very simple. So this noticing the flinching is really at the heart of it. You just notice, here it is, the truth. The truth is happening. You can't escape it. Here it is. It's right, perfectly obvious. And you are the only one, by the way, who has that awareness. Have you noticed that? Nobody else does. I'm not saying that to like, turn you into an egomaniac. I'm saying in your own experience, no, you're the only one who has access to that. Nobody else does. You're the only one who can tell the truth. Nobody else can. So it's on you. You have to do it. It's a very serious responsibility, because if you shirk it, nobody can pick that load up for you. It's yours. It's yours and yours alone. And everything rests on that, actually. And I'm serious. I'm not joking. Everything rests on that. Everything depends on that. Everything depends upon you being honest. And it's so simple. All it takes is just to see, oh yeah, there's that flinching. There's that habitual holding of the breath. There's that trying to divert attention anywhere other than here. Oh God, no, not this, not this, not this. I don't want to see that. I don't want to think that. And meanwhile, what all of that, just notice and see how effortless it is. See, there's nothing hidden. Can you perceive right now, perhaps, that it's just this perfect flow that's occurring, and that by the time you assign meaning to it, by the time you grasp it and do something with it and wrestle with it and try to get rid of it or change it, it's already gone, and now there's something else, and you're missing it because you're worried about what was, but it never even was. You see, it's just your idea about it. So just notice here, just see, here it is. And that includes all of it. So it's a little tricky to talk about, of course, because I'm inserting this fictional character called you who's doing all these things supposedly, but just see actually that all of it, see how simple it is, profoundly simple. You don't have to do anything. You see, it's just perfectly happening here, that you are aware, and there's this flow, and you are aware of the flow, and there's nothing that you're not aware of. That's the play of mind. The play of mind is that there's something I'm not aware of. There's something somewhere. I just got to keep looking for it. Where is it? It's over there. Maybe it's over there. Let's see. That's the play of mind. Actually, you're aware of all of it. So you just open and notice again, just how the simplicity of it is, if you want to keep it really simple, all you have to do is just notice the flinching, the avoidance, that tendency to shut down, to tense up, to try and manipulate, control, or grasp. Those are just pointers. They're just words to point to the experience, but notice what they're pointing to in your experience. You can notice that there's a tendency to try and do something, close down, grasp, get hold of, protect, somehow divide. And just notice that. And then notice that there's actually some, and this is strange, I know, but there's something volitional about that, but you just have to be aware. So notice that when you just lightly direct your attention to that, and you just start to notice that, you'll start to notice, yeah, there it is. Maybe you just zero in on one thing and don't overthink it. Just because if you overthink it, then you'll jump around this thing, that thing. Does it mean this? Does it mean that? Just anything where you say, there it is. It could be, you could notice it as at a physical level, a physical gripping. Could be you're holding the breath. It could be that it could be at a subtle level where it's just like this avoidance of seeing something inwardly. This is something that you can notice this with things, what's popularly termed trauma. Okay, so anything that you are uncomfortable and you kind of compulsively avoid inwardly, trying to avoid seeing something, thinking something, remembering something, some sensation or whatever. Notice that you just bring your attention lightly to that and just notice the effort involved in that, and that you can make a choice, strange as it might be, not to indulge that and just to be very curious and just to allow an openness there. Now, please don't misunderstand and think that I mean that this is, you have to achieve perfect openness, because that's nonsense. What I'm saying is, by bringing this open curiosity there and really being very, very, like, I mean that legitimately, you have to be very curious about this and have an intention in this as well. The intention is I want to discover how I am, what is my role in this? How am I doing this? And start to play around with, how can I not indulge that habit of closing down? Can I start to let that open up? Can I stop that flinching? And not completely. Don't go for gold. Rather, just a little tiny bit, just the littlest bit, just to notice it at first is all that's necessary. You just start to notice it, and then the next step, as you're comfortable in the noticing, because at first just noticing, this is the telling the truth, that noticing at first is very uncomfortable, awkward, can provoke an enormous amount of discomfort, rage. So just noticing is very important, and that's the first step. And then when that becomes, let's say, comfortable, or that might be a stretch to call it comfortable, but you never know, somewhat comfortable, less completely uncomfortable, then you can start to play around with, okay, and now what if I just allow that to just soften a little bit more, so instead of avoiding, what if I just rest? What if I just allow that experience here? What if I just allow that sensation here? What if I just allow that image here? And instead of closing down, instead of avoiding, instead of distracting, instead of whatever I usually do, that efforting, what if I just remain open and soft, just a little bit? Again, we're not going 100% because that's unrealistic, unsustainable, but just a little bit, you see, just the tiniest little bit. It's like if you've been making a fist, clenching this fist for how long? 40 years? Some of you are not that old. Some of you are like 40 years. Give me a break. 70 years. Been doing it for 75. Wherever you are, you notice you've been doing it for a while, metaphorically. Of course, you're not literally making the fist, although some of you might. But you notice that it's like metaphorically making this fist for all these years. You're numb to it. You don't even know it. You don't recognize it until somebody points it out. That's why I'm saying, just to tell the truth about it, to slow down and just begin to allow this into your conscious awareness to say, oh, holy cow, look at that fist. Wow, feel that fist. And then to notice everything that's in there, to even start to introduce this possibility that, wow, I could even consider opening the fist a little bit, just the tiniest little bit, even to begin to contemplate that opening. It will, you can see, it will provoke this release of all of this stuff: rage, fear, terror, discomfort, depression, anxiety, all the rest of it. And you'll say, no, 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 can't do that. Well, of course, because that's the conditioning, isn't it? That, what do you think? Why do you think you've been avoiding it all this time? So that's why I'm saying we have to be gentle, slow, patient. So just the tiniest little bit, you start to contemplate, okay, what if, this is a miracle that's occurring. You have to recognize that. Now you're following along, I hope. You have to be following along. You have to be looking for yourself. But look, you're looking to your own experience right now, and you're noticing this flinching, this avoidance, this habitual, compulsive behavior at either at a subtle level or at a gross level or anywhere in between, where you're just pausing for a moment, you're just noticing it, because usually you just leap over it. We all do. But now you're pausing and you're noticing, wow, yes, there it is. I really have the strong urge to do that thing, to distract, to avoid, get away, to somehow try and manage this. But you got to see that has only led to, it's compounded the misery. So now we're looking directly at it. So you just look directly at it in your direct experience. You just notice. And this is why I say you can't fail when you choose this, when you begin to inquire in this way. Everything that occurs, whether it's whether you consider it good, bad, or neutral, whatever you think about it, if you think it's big or it's small or nothing at all of it is perfect, because all of it is, it's revealing the conditioning, and you're seeing exactly how it is that it's like you're reverse engineering the misery. So whatever it is, if you say this is unbearable, or you say it's so pleasurable, or you say, well, I can't notice anything, I'm numb, great. Just notice that, and then notice the reaction to that, and you'll see the reaction to that involves some effort, some tension, some contraction, some avoidance, some flinching, some fill in the blank. And now just open up a little bit, just a little bit, just open the tiniest little bit, just whatever is sustainable for you. And at any point, it could be anything. You can experience it as very pleasurable, or you can experience it as agony. And whatever it is, just, you don't need to get hung up on it, because guess what? It ain't gonna last forever. So, the good, like you're not gonna arrive. So you don't need to worry about that. You're not gonna arrive at heaven or hell. It's not gonna happen. So, and then finally, what a relief. Okay, now I can just be. And understand, when I say just be, I don't mean, oh, just be how wonderful that is. No, I mean, just be. And then whatever it is that's happening, that's happening. And you just keep noticing. Okay, so I think everybody here, probably, most likely, most of you, but you never know who's going to watch it on YouTube. but most of you who are alive, at least, you probably are able to notice now that this awareness, in a sense, that's behind, I mean, that's just metaphorical, but it's like what's prior to the curiosity, what gives rise to the curiosity, what gives rise to this possibility of simply observing rather than reacting, what allows for this honesty. You notice this awareness, it's who you are, isn't it? You don't need to think about it. If you think about it, you get confused, but you just notice before you think about it. It's obvious, it's totally obvious that you are this awareness. You are simply this open, non-judgmental, non-reactive awareness. So that's, as I say, should be obvious to most of you, but we'll pretend that it's not. Just for the sake, if there's anybody who it's not clear for, and especially if there's anybody who watches it later on YouTube who's not clear. So what can be the obstacles? Why would we think, why would we not see that? Well, it would be because of the habit of identifying as something that is at risk, in danger. So you notice, for example, when you go to sleep at night, and sometimes you have dreams, but sometimes you're in deep sleep, and in this deep sleep state, no problems, no person, no world, no nothing. So the we all have this regular experience. We just don't notice it, but we have this regular experience of the no, of the absence of this identification as something, and we can then notice how quite blissful that is. You can't do anything with not the waking character can't do anything with that necessarily, because it's the waking character is this bundle of conditioning, and so that's forget about that. But just notice that you, as you are right now, the actuality of yourself as this pure awareness is the same in this deep sleep state, and that there's no problem at all. There's no threat, because there's no one to be threatened and nothing to do any threatening. So it's only because of this identification as something that can be threatened, that could lose something, that could be destroyed, that could be injured, that could have to endure unpleasantness and so forth, that we don't more easily recognize that I am this pure awareness. But notice that in order for there to be this sense of, you are aware of the sense of threat, you are aware of the sense of discomfort, you're aware of the sense that I might lose, I might be injured, I might have to endure some kind of difficulty or unpleasantness. So you're aware of that. So we want to just start to see, at the very least, okay, yes, I'm aware of that. So that awareness is primary. And then you can notice that even throughout the waking state, throughout the day, the sense of danger, threat, so forth, it's not absolutely continuous. It's interrupted. And if you're really observant, you'll notice that it's constantly coming and going. It's just recreated very consistently, but well, depending on the conditioning. But you certainly can notice that there are some times, even when the worst things seem to be happening, you've lost your source of income, and uh, your best friend has accused you of some terrible crime, and your your spouse believes them and is divorcing you, and you're possibly going to prison, and all kinds of, it's all this terrible stuff happening. And let's say you become suddenly homeless and you have no food. Worst thing. But even in that, there will be a moment here or there where you forget that, actually. So you can start to see that all of that is created. It's actually created, as I say, constantly. We're just recreating it over and over and over and over and over. Now, of course, most of us are not, that's an exaggeration. We're not in that dire of circumstances, but we have our own dramas, big or small. And you notice it doesn't really matter that much, big or small, they're always kind of big to us. So we want to look and see, well, how to kind of bring it back to where we started. This fixation on that is because we think, oh, I need to feel better. I've got this problem and I've got to feel better. So our attention goes to, how am I going to solve this problem? And you notice that in order to do that, you have to maintain this tension inwardly. But if you were to let that go now, just for a moment, just, for an instant, just like that, don't worry about sustaining it, but just for an instant. And when I say let go, I don't mean get rid of, I just mean let go. So maybe it still sticks to you, but you let go. So don't be worried if it's still here or not. It doesn't matter. Just you let go, just for this one instant, just like that. And notice for that one instant, we see that it's just happening. Can you see that? It's just happening. All of it is just happening. Just for one instant. So you don't have to hold on to that. You don't have to maintain that perspective, but just for one instant, you just let go and notice in that one instant, it's just happening. In that one instant, before you give rise to the next thought, before you assign meaning to this again, for this one instant, without having to make anything disappear or anything change or take a position relative to any of it or have any judgment or grasp at anything, just for one instant, it's just happening. And can you notice in this one instant, isn't it like a breath of fresh air in this one instant? Isn't it such a relief? One instant of freedom. Can you feel that one instant of freedom? Now, what I'm saying is that this one instant of freedom, this is available all the time. And the trick is not that we need to have a particular feeling or have particular circumstances or particular conditions or any of that, because of course, if that was true, if it was conditional in that way, then wouldn't be very free. So the trick to it is to notice this, the same kind of letting go for one instant, that same letting go, to notice that there's something that you are that is never, ever, ever not letting go. It's never, ever grasping, actually. So you start to see that all of the, what we call the problems, and we call the tension, and what we call the grasping, and what we call the churning, and what we call the struggle, and what we call the strain, and what we call the anxiety, and what we call the worry, and all the rest of that, those are actually just what's happening, and that they don't have the meaning that we think they have. So just again, notice, if you just let go for one instant, just one instant, and maybe you just have this glimpse, and you can see, oh yeah, it's all just happening, and it doesn't have any of the meaning that I thought it had. That meaning itself is what's happening. You see, the meaning is the assignment of that meaning, all that, that's what's happening. But here I am, I'm just, in this one instant, I'm just seeing it. So I'm not involved in believing that meaning. I'm just witness to it. I'm free of it. And you can just start to see that this is always going on. You're always simply aware. So this is step one. Step one. Step one. Because then what happens is, then, and you can catch this glimpse. And that, by the way, that seems like an enormous percentage of the population does not glimpse that. So that's quite rare, and you are glimpsing it. So that's something to be grateful for. That's a miracle. And I'm sincere about that. You just have to see that that's true. So you're glimpsing something quite rare, and it's a miracle, and it's being gifted to you. I say it's being gifted, not by me. I'm not gifting it to you, but I mean, it's being gifted to you. So it's good to be grateful for that. Just let me put it this way: it's intelligent, because that gratitude will open up this portal in which you will see it more often. So that's true. And then here's the tricky bit, is that you're not living in a cave, and you don't have you don't live in a, chances are, at least you don't live in a culture where people would be supporting you in a lifestyle in which you would just sit in that bliss eternally. In other words, you need to function in this culture, in this world. So that's where the rubber meets the road. Now all of a sudden, okay, have this awareness of this awareness. I have this glimpse of this bliss of being. I have a glimpse of the ease of this, of pure seeing, of this honesty of what is, not having to do anything about it. And I can see the, maybe, at least maybe you can see the totality, the perfection, the wonder of it. But then you've got bills to pay, and maybe you're married, and maybe you have kids, and maybe you have aging parents, or maybe you've got a job, maybe whatever. Yes, that, there you go. And so I would be doing you a terrible disservice if I didn't talk about integration and the relationship between this pure awareness and this creation. So we can look at this in terms of, like practically, given that we live in this world and want to function in this world, how does this all, how do we make sense of all this? What do we do? Like, kind of been opened up and we're just sort of swimming in this cosmic stew of oneness, and then like, what you want me to do? What? I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. You want me to do the dishes? No, I'm awareness. Awareness doesn't do anything. So we've got to integrate. This integration is really, really important. So we can work both ways. So we can imagine, this model. It's just a model, so don't take it too literally. But you could imagine this model in which there's this kind of, it's like the ocean and the tides. The tides come in and the tides go out. So there's this kind of ebb and flow, this creative impulse from pure awareness into form, and from form returning to pure awareness. So it's a continuum. There's no actual separation. You see, it's like, where is the separation between you and the dream when you have a dream at night? There's not a separation. And we can recognize, of course, that the dreamer is the independent in this configuration of the dreamer and the dream. The dreamer is the independent one. The dream is dependent. There's no dream without a dreamer, but there could be a dreamer without a dream. We wouldn't call him a dreamer, but that one who has the awareness of the dream can exist without the dream. So too here, of course, and we can recognize that because we have these glimpses of pure awareness independent of creation. You can notice that just a little, maybe you don't, but depends on how much you've seen. It's like this seeing develops through ongoing inquiry, but you might catch a glimpse and see, oh yes, this pure awareness exists independently. I am this, and there's even when there's nothing, and actually moment to moment there's this pure awareness without any form. But then there's this creation, so then it takes form and we see it in this world. So we have to understand this relationship and understand that if we want to be anchored in this awareness of our independent nature as awareness, because otherwise we will so easily be sucked into all of these imagined problems again, because all the problems belong to this person. It's an imaginary person. It's like when you dream at night, you dream that you imagine that you're a dream character in the dream world. In the same way, there's this dream character here who you think, I am this, it's a waking dream character. I am this waking dream character, we think. But through this inquiry, you start to realize, wait a second, no, I'm aware of this waking dream character. So you start to have this clearer differentiation where you start to notice, if I am aware, I am awareness. If I'm aware of it as an object, then that does not define me. So I'm not defined by that. So that's essential, because otherwise we'll just get drawn back into the confusion and into the fear and anxiety and back into trying to solve problems. So we have to have that as our foundation. I am this recognition, I am awareness. And we have to have this ongoing courage to be witness to, without judgment or reaction, to whatever it is that's occurring, including all of the experiences, so-called subjective experiences, that we believe or belong to us, that are assigned to us, that have something to do with us, that reflect on us, like our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and so forth and so on. So we allow for this inquiry to be very alive in that way, that it just starts to be a continuous process of this awareness of myself as awareness, and just to be witness to everything that's happening in this open, non-judgmental, curious way. And it takes courage, because a lot of it, that conditioning, again, is to think, oh, this is mine, it has to do with me, it's going to destroy me. So we have to have that willingness, in a sense, to challenge that, just by not grasping it, or not indulging the notion that I am grasping at it. And then it becomes clear, yes, that comes and goes, and I remain. So clearly I'm not that. Okay, so that's essential. But then once this is established, then we can start to play in a two-way, there's two-way play. So from this recognition that I am awareness, then there's a, we call it a constructive and a deconstructive phase of this play. So I don't know which one's the ebb and which one's the flow. Unfortunately, I'm not a mariner, but one of the tide coming in, okay, we'll say, doesn't really matter. Tide coming in, we'll say, is like the constructive phase, the creative phase. And the tide going out is like the deconstructive phase. So in this constructive phase, we're starting from this awareness of pure awareness, unmanifest, and we're beginning to explore intentionality. So we start to see, and we've talked about this previously, exploring just intention, to see, well, what is my intention? And if the intention, why is it that I have an intention? I intend, for example, we all intend, I want to feel good, but then we're feeling bad. Why is that? And when we explore intention in this way, we start to see, okay, here's this intention, but the intention to feel good is actually just the opposite of the intention that I don't want to feel bad. Well, so then I'm having to create that I'm feeling bad so that I can work toward not feeling bad. Otherwise, it's meaningless, you see. Now, we could dress that up in words and try to play with it that way, but you'll see that will ultimately fail. We say, oh, well, okay, I'll just use the right words. I'll say, I affirm that I feel blissful. Well, nice try, but you see, subconsciously, you're not going to bullshit yourself. That really, that's just a reaction, again, to, I don't want to feel bad, which means presently I imagine that I feel bad. And so now that's my starting point. So we start to explore intentionality in this way, and we're starting to see, okay, I have this intention, but how does it get distorted? It gets distorted. This requires that we just continue to observe. How does it get distorted? I feel blissful. Okay, just watch and see how that gets distorted. And what you see are these impressions, these subtle impressions that are there that distort it so that it becomes something other than that. And you just have to continue to just be aware of that. So it is like, the tide coming in, and you see it's wearing away the obstacles, but what's required is the awareness. So you have to continue to be aware, and you don't need to fix it. You don't need to go through some complicated process. It's just the awareness. So you just have this intention. For example, let's say you have an intention to have wealth and abundance, but you just keep coming up, you've got, seems to be the opposite, all kinds of problems. Well, so you start to explore this intention, I am abundant, I'm wealthy. So then you just see how that intention is distorted. And how does it get distorted? Because there's some impression there, that distorts it into lack and poverty. So then that's the form that it takes. So through this awareness with that intention, you just start to see where is that you just start to get clearer on the impression, and through that awareness it's cleared away, so that intention can be expressed fully into expression. Then the deconstructive phase, equally important, often overlooked because we have a bias against it, mostly because of still this identification as something, as an object. Because if I'm something that can be destroyed or something that's going to die, I don't really want to look at deconstruction, because that means I'm looking at my own demise. So again, this is why we have to be rooted in this recognition that I am pure awareness. It has to be a direct recognition. But then we need to go through this deconstructive phase consciously as well, which looks like, okay, here is already manifests these things that seem to be problematic. Something, so here, use the debt example. Okay, so here there's this debt, this appearance of debt. Okay, so that's already here manifest. So now I want to stay with that as that recedes back into pure awareness, so that I become aware of all of everything that's between that expression and pure awareness. So again, I'm becoming aware of all of the impressions. I'm aware of how it's like a reverse engineering, and I'm taking it apart just through awareness, though, just by being aware. That's it. So we've explored that process today. Is really just to watch where there's, and really the process is the same in both directions. It's about observing where there's a latching on, a flinching, an avoidance, that closing down, protecting, armoring, just watching for that. And then just a little bit, just allowing for that to open up, to soften. So that's it. It seems like nothing, but it's extremely powerful, because it's eliminating the unwanted impressions, so that we can be functional in a good way. It's like lucid dreaming. You can have a nightmare, and then it seems really, really, really awful, and you're trying to solve all these problems and everything, and then you wake up and you say, oh, it was just a dream, because you realize none of those problems transferred to the waking state. Oh, okay, I'm okay. All right, fine. But of course, well, same goes here, right? So whatever the problem is, you see, every night in deep sleep, there's no problem, complete disappearance of the problem. So whatever those no matter how horrible the problems seem to be in the waking state, they disappear. And at the end of this lifetime, they disappear. So we know know that inevitably all of the problems uh, vanish outside of the waking state. These waking state problems exist only in the waking state. We know that that's true, but then and we can have, this is strange, but we can have this direct recognition, I am awareness, I'm pure awareness, but still have this ongoing disaster of a life in the waking state. A lot of time we have this wrong idea, oh, if a person wakes up, then their life should be instantly perfect in all ways, and we scratch our heads, well, I thought that person was enlightened. Why are they having all these problems? Why are they having, why are they being convicted of fraud and tax evasion and God knows what, like, why is that happening? Well, because it doesn't necessarily translate in that way. So I'm suggesting we can have both. We can know who we are, and we can bring that awakeness into the waking dream. And why not? And requires, essentially, it's the same skill set, just applied practically, consistently. And as we clean up the impressions that are there, that have given rise to the dream as it appears, this waking dream as it appears, this waking dream changes, and we're able then to more efficiently take our intention and manifest that into expression. Not because we have the wrong idea that our actual well-being depends upon it, but rather because why on earth would we not? This is our creation. To be impotent in our own creation is absurd. And so we don't, and there's, why do you feel bad? Well, because of that, because you're being prompted by your own self. Hey, wake up. It's your own creation. You're already doing it, just unconsciously. Now do it consciously. So the thing is, a lot of the time with, so-called manifestation techniques, they completely are ignorant of the importance of self-knowledge. They're still focused on trying to create with still having ignorance of who they actually are. So that's doomed to fail, even if a person can use those techniques to manifest certain things that ultimately will not be fulfilling, because it's based on ignorance of who one really is. So the difference here is we're wanting to recognize, first and foremost, I am already free. I am pure awareness. I am already the source. Not this person is that, but I am that, and this person appears in that. And then from that, as a play, and because it's enjoyable to do so, to gain skill or regain skill in, it's like lucid dreaming. Then it's a waking state lucid dreaming. And it's just utilizing the same skill set, as I've said, which is to be aware continuously. I mean, the bottom line is this, that if you are it's only interruptions in the continuity of conscious awareness that give rise to any deviation from your pure intention. because otherwise I mean, this is all only your intention. So it's just that there are these moments in which there's like you placed a speed bump somewhere, and in that instant you lose the conscious awareness, and so that intention, conscious intention, doesn't manifest purely. But through this conscious awareness, continuously through the entirety of the process, the creation and deconstruction phases, we are removing the obstacles, the impressions, so that we're no longer flinching, avoiding, distracting, but there's a confidence, clarity, and that confidence and clarity gives rise to greater confidence and clarity because it's proved out over and over and over again. It's like, hey, look here, let's do this, create this, and then it's like that's prototype. If you want to make a change to that, easy peasy. Okay, make a change. Whereas before we were afraid. We're afraid to be bold in that way because we say, I don't know about that, because if I take that bold step and really manifest that intention fully, God knows what that might result in, and I don't really want to have to deal with that. But it was, again, lack of clarity and confidence. Whereas as we clear out these obstacles, we naturally gain confidence and clarity. And then why would we not follow through on our intentions? There's no reason we would not. So that was a doozy. That's where we'll leave it today for the formal portion. For those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. So let me switch that over.